What is up, everyone? Welcome to HiFi Turtle, the #1 reptile adjacent hi-fi page on the internet. Today we're taking a look at a headphone. This is the Meze Audio Poet. It is a $2,000 headphone from Romanian headphone maker Meze Audio. This is their latest creation. It is an open back style headphone. It features a new driver, a magnesium and titanium construction, and just a very interesting headphone to listen to, a pleasure to listen to. We'll talk more about that in a second. Before we get into the review, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe. It helps the channel grow so we can continue to bring you high quality reviews like this. There's also some links below in the description for other ways to help support the channel, as well as some links to the Poet where you can purchase or learn more about this at the Meze Audio website. For those familiar with the Meze Audio line of products, the Poet sits at the upper echelon of Meze's offerings due to its driver technology. It shares a very similar driver technology to the more expensive Empyrean and Elite, but it is a unique driver using a fusion of the MZ4 and the MZ3 SE found in the Lyric 2 and the Elite, respectively. This driver is a isodynamic design, and this is a collaboration with a company in Ukraine called Renaro, which makes the driver, and it's unique in a sense of typical planar magnetic designs, which you could arguably call the Poet and the other isodynamic designs from Meze a planar magnetic design, typically use a single film with a trace through it that spans the entirety of the frequency range. However, in Meze and Renaro's design, instead there are two separate coil windings for the treble and mids, and then another for the bass. So you have that separation between the different frequencies to give you a better and more detailed listening experience. It's always been my opinion that Meze's headphones are second to none when it comes to comfort, and the Poet is no exception. It is an extremely lightweight headphone, again with a titanium and magnesium construction, and the entire driver only weighing 2.5 ounces. It comes out to just above 14 ounces total for this headphone. It sits like a dream on top of your head, very comfortable with the single band, and then easily adjustable with the bars on each side of the driver units. Meze keeping it very classy and simple with the black, silver, and bronze colors on this headphone, and the outer cup of the headphone with the metal Meze motif that I've come to know from them. It looks very cool. I like this implementation on this headphone. Kind of gives me Great Gatsby vibes a little bit, but a very nice design and definitely adds to the premium overall feel of the headphone. The cups are completely removable, just easy magnet removal. And then if you do remove it, you'll also notice that there is the AMTS. This is a meta material design that is actually licensed from Dan Clark Audio, who also makes some very premium headphones. And this is to taper the high frequency response from the driver. Also included with this headphone is an 8-foot hand-braided premium copper cable that terminates in a 1/4 inch or 6.3 millimeter jack. That was very, very nice, and definitely, again, adds to the overall premium look and feel of this headphone. Fit, feel, design, I feel like this headphone strikes it all. It's a great design, looks great, feels great, checks all the boxes. If I had to make one negative or criticism of the design, it would be that I wasn't a huge fan of the adjustment feature with the bars on the side. I felt like they were pretty stiff, and again, you want it to be stiff enough to hold position on your head, but I feel like I've become maybe spoiled or feel like that the styles of the 109 Pro or the 105 AER with its self-adjusting headband is a more slick and more premium feeling adjustment system than the pulling in and out of the bars until you finally get it just right. So let's get into the sound profile of the Poet. I feel like after listening to the Lyric 2 and how different that headphone was from the original Lyric and now listening to the Poet, This is definitely the direction that Meze has gone in with their voicing and their sound profiles for their headphones. It's very similar to the 109 Pro, although certain refinements have essentially been made and maybe some slight differences in the voicing. While the 109, I would say, is a little bit more clinical, a little more analytical on the sound profile, the Poet gives, again, that tinge of transparency and brightness and detail in the mid-range and the treble. It gives a slight hint of warmth in the bass regions to make you not feel like this is a bright pair of headphones. However, I do feel like while you're getting some warmth in the bass registrars, you are certainly not going to describe this headphone as dark or bass heavy like those offerings from Odyssey. Comparatively to my LCD2s from Odyssey, I feel like the slam, the bass depth, and the reach into those lower bass notes is certainly more present and defined than the Poet. That being said, I don't feel like the Poet presents bass in a lacking way, but rather a very different and more neutral profile with a slight emphasis on the mid bass, lower mids. It gives it a little bit of that warmness feel to it rather than a deep, punchy, bass heavy headphone. And I would say that the mid-range is more open and airy than the LCD2. I was surprised to find it not as open and airy as I may expect from an open back headphone, and was kind of shocked at how well the Lyric 2 for a closed back headphone did comparatively to the Poet. While the Poet certainly does have a wider soundstage and a more open and airiness feel to it in the mid-range and the treble, it's not vastly that different from the Lyric 2, which again, as a closed back headphone, I expected much more different comparatively to the 2. So going on to listening, to test those more bass heavy tracks, I was listening to some tracks off of Kendrick Lamar's latest album, GNX, specifically TV Off. I feel like that is a great presentation. There is a wonderful tonality to the vast instrumentation on the beat, as well as Kendrick's voice throughout the song. However, I do feel like at points that the bass is certainly not as hard hitting as I am familiar with some other headphones, the Odyssey LCD2, as well as the Focal Bathis. Switching over to something with a lot of dynamics, like the singles off of the upcoming Turnstile album, which I am extraordinarily excited for. Listening to Never Enough or Birds, there is a very fast-paced, breakneck speed to those songs at points where I feel like the Poet does a great job, has lightning fast reaction times, and really brings out some of the best of that track. Where switching to another headphone, I feel like all the detail and the airiness and dreaminess of that track is somewhat lost on comparative headphones. I think Meze did a great job here with the treble, where with the Lyric 2, I did call out at times it could feel like it was slightly bright. I feel like the AMTS system that they've deployed into the Poet slightly enhanced the responses of those treble frequencies, where I don't find myself finding it harsh, definitely very detailed and transparent, but never harsh or sibilant. There's a great amount of sparkle and speed with the transients, and just a real pleasure to listen to. I will say, like the Lyric 2, the Poet is not friendly to very poorly recorded tracks. Those really grimy and compressed tracks sound pretty good, honestly, on the LCD2 and occasionally on the Focal Bathis as well, but the Poet does those tracks absolutely no favor. So if your favorite music is compressed or has not the greatest dynamic range or not the greatest recording, the Poet is certainly not going to do it any favors. I think the Poet is a great addition in Meze's lineup. Not only does it serve as an upgrade to the 109 Pro that is $1,000, but also serves as maybe a stopgap for those who can't make it to the Elite from Meze. While it won't cater to the most hardcore of bass heads, it does satisfy with a tinge of warmth in the bass registers, and it gives a amazingly transparent, open, airy, and detailed soundstage, especially in the treble, to where tracks that have a lot of air, a lot of soundstage will definitely bring out their absolute best. The vocal clarity will come through immensely. It may not be the most wide version of a vocal, but I feel like it is one of the most natural and resolving versions of vocals that I've ever heard from a headphone. It's got a beautiful balance, a beautiful look, and I highly recommend that you try it out if given the opportunity. I want to thank Meze for sending me this headphone for the review. Remember, give this video a like, a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It'll help this channel grow. Look at the links below in the description for other ways to help support the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.